Team, welcome back to another episode on Live, Perform, Compete. I have a very special guest here with me today, and truth be told, I've wanted to interview this guy for a while. He's one of the first names I put down on my list, and it was just about getting the right time, and I feel like the timing of right now is perfect because there is a lot of stuff to talk about in the world of CrossFit. His name is Antonio Barrias. When I think of Antonio, I think of athlete, coach, business owner, father, a voice on social media who is not afraid to hold back on how he feels. And just generally speaking, just a really, really interesting guy who I've got to know over the years. I first and foremost crossed paths with him. I think it was it was a CrossFit seminar of some sort. I think it was a gymnastics seminar.
Gymnastics, yeah.
And then we've competed against each other as athletes in various competitions. And then I guess, both being business owners, we've just stayed in touch and stayed close over the years. But let me say no more. I'll hand it over to Antonio now. Antonio, firstly, welcome. Please tell us about yourself.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I've actually, truth be told, I've always wanted to, get on this podcast. I've seen your work and I'm a big admirer. But yeah, man, everything was perfect. So that's it. I think we've gone a while back now, man. It was in the gymnastics course in Asphodel, if I'm not wrong. That was a very long time ago. We were both very skinny, and yeah.
and I still am. So
yeah, I just eat a little bit more. That's all. Yeah, man. So what can I say? But that's basically it. The athlete, coach, business owner, just kind of like the same path that kind of like you guys are doing, and you did as well. We went a little bit different paths, but same mindset, I think.
So, Antonio, there's a lot of different avenues that we can take on this podcast. Let's start with you, because I mean you're sat currently in your gym over in Macau, and so kind of I know that's an interesting story in itself. Being the first CrossFit affiliate in Macau, and perhaps for listeners, you could just tell us a little bit about Macau as a country, what it's like, and perhaps what it's been like setting up an affiliate there and kind of trying to cultivate a new method or a new style of fitness.
Well, everything, I wish I could say everything was easy, but when you're the first at something, you're gonna step on a lot of toes, and you know how it is. So Macau is in 2020, it was supposed to become the world's richest city. So it's a gambling town, and that's all people want to do. People want to gamble, go out, get drunk, and that's basically the day-to-day life. Everything revolves around that, and that's people live for the weekend basically. And then here I am trying to set up a little bit of a beacon of health and fitness in that mess. So back then, actually, not only was I the first affiliate in Macau, I was the first properly licensed gym in Macau. That was really fun. And basically from my first gym, the really small XVI that we used to have, that's where they set up the kind of like the standard and the protocols to license legally every gym from there on after. So it's been a rocky journey, but being the only and the first affiliate, you kind of get, I would say we were lucky because we kind of got to stamp our philosophy on our fitness community. And back when I started, there were not many even commercial gyms in Macau. And since we started, there's gyms everywhere now. And, we are, me and my business partner, Amanda, we are very, very proud to we were one of the driving forces to create that fitness culture in Macau, not just from the CrossFit community, but in general. So yeah, it's been a wild ride.
And so now, how many facilities do you have, Antonio?
So we actually we were in the process, just completed. We had, at the peak, we had 3 facilities, and we quickly figured out that quantity was not what we were looking for. So, it comes to a point in business where you have to decide if you want to expand into quantity or quality. We tried a mixture of both, but we quickly figured out that we were watering down our product, and it's very hard to be in one place, different places at the same time. So we've been kind of phasing down into our single facility now, And we are trying to grow the facility that we have now by introducing a personal training room. We've actually recently added a remote coaching component, which has taken off very, very well. And we are adding now a multifunction room where we will add a variety of different functional fitness avenues for our clients as well. So trying to grow from within instead of having more than one location now.
And what are some of the biggest challenges that you face in somewhere like Macau, which is, like a gambling party town? I imagine quite a transient population of people coming in and out. What is your clientele with regards to the local market versus expat market? And just generally, what are some of the biggest challenges that you're having to face?
So the biggest challenge I would say here is because we are a small business, and in Macau, because the gaming is everywhere, everybody has a friend who has ties with big money. So the one of the biggest challenges that we have in Macau is setting ourselves apart from the rest. Like I mentioned to you before, in the couple of weeks after COVID, 3 gyms opened in Macau. So basically, there's so much money in Macau that anyone that wants to open a gym can open a gym and will open a gym. So when the market is that saturated, and basically the token for differentiating gyms is price of admission, we have to stand out because we're a little bit more expensive than most gyms, of course. We need to set ourselves apart from the rest, and that's been the biggest challenge. We always need to stay ahead of the game, not by 1, but more like 4 or 3 steps. Because when you have gyms with that much financial backing behind them, you put something out there, and within 1 week, they will be doing the same thing and copying whatever you're doing. So it's always been a constant, I wouldn't say struggle, but you gotta stay ahead of the game, and that's been the biggest thing.
And what are you guys doing to try and stay ahead of your competition over there?
So basically, I think of fitness and people joining, on their fitness journey. I think it as a continuum. So we can help anyone that walks through our doors, even someone that's postpartum. We have the tools to facilitate their journey. But the truth is, commercial gyms have more access to the market because it's low barrier of entry. Yeah, so it's $400. They join, unlimited use of the gym. So we are on the end of the continuum for most people. So what we've been trying to do is educate, in a certain sense, the public that there is a continuum to fitness, and it's not just you go to the gym, you get on the treadmill for 5 times a week. Eventually, you will want more, and we are trying to establish ourselves as the I wouldn't say the end of the spectrum, but once you have that a little bit of experience outside, and you do want to lose those 10 kilos or lose those 5% of fat that you can't get rid on your own, we are the go-to, no doubt, on people's minds to achieve those goals. So that's how we stay apart. So that comes from offering remote coaching for our in-house clientele and outside house clientele. We put out a lot. We put out a lot of stuff locally to kind of educate the market, and not only that, to make the other gyms also have to step up their game and produce better quality and better facilities for their members. So in a sense, it's kind of like being, I wouldn't say this word, but like the Godfather, where you're not very active, but visually active, but you're always behind the scenes and leading the game.
And obviously the word CrossFit is prevalent in your name. And I don't want to, we could probably make this a whole episode in itself, which I don't really want to, because there's a lot of other interesting things about you, Anthony, that I want to talk about. But, with all the changes recently going on with CrossFit and organization, how has that affected your brand, and has it affected your brand at all? Has it affected the future of your brand? Do you foresee yourself making any changes? Yeah, I'm interested to hear.
So currently we've just finished. So I have a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plan for my business. I think any business owner should have a plan for their business. So we've just recently finished phase 2 of this progress, and eventually we will want to create a brand that stands alone without the CrossFit word with it. With that being said, in Macau, I mean, people come up to us all the time and they say, I do CrossFit in whatever fitness or in that gym. So here in Macau, people don't really understand that CrossFit is a specific company and a specific methodology and a specific sport. So the Macau market is a little bit different. So people do say, they instead of saying, for example, in Hong Kong, I don't know how many affiliates they are, but people say, I go to Asphodel, I go to whatever. In Macau, people just say, I do CrossFit, no matter what they are. So, which again, that's going to be one of, or we foresee to be one of the biggest challenges, is going to be setting ourselves apart. But again, I believe that we can do that, much like what you guys are doing, through quality of the product that we deliver.
I mean, it sounds like the market over there in terms of your audience, I mean, it sounds like CrossFit actually still has very much a positive association with the general consumer. Would you say that's the case?
Yeah, 100%. People here were not, I wouldn't say almost entirely not affected by what's been happening within the CrossFit community world. It's like much like the Marvel universe. It's something completely apart, you know? They are aware of it, but because the culture, as an affiliate owner, we kind of have to try to make our community have its own soul. And the soul that we created for our CrossFit community is that, you know, we are in Macau. There is an affiliate in Macau, and we're kind of set apart from the rest of the world. And no matter what is happening, we kind of have to look at ourselves for that community. I'm not saying that we were not affected by it, and I did put a post out saying that I will not stand by what had happened. We can get into that if you'd like. But I believe we need to change, and we can only change, and sometimes we need to change by force, but we need to stand together. And sometimes we need to send a message, like the message that was sent. But in terms of the negative from all that's happening, I wouldn't say that it's been too bad here in Macau. Not much affected.
Yeah, no, I think the world can probably agree that the changes that are being made are generally positive right now. Obviously,
Correct.
there's just so much to change, and I can't imagine it's a process that's going to happen, you know, even in a couple of weeks. So I think it's all gone a bit quiet right now, but we're all kind of sitting on the edge of our seats to see, you know, what's going to happen, what's going to change to the athlete and the sports side of things, and then the affiliate side of things and the education side of things. Yeah, kind of nervous, but also really exciting times, I think, for the organization.
Yeah, I agree, man. Like it is uncertain times, but out of uncertainty, two things can happen, good or bad. It's up to the people that want the good to make the good happen. They got to make their voices heard. That's what I think.
All right, so let's switch gears a little bit then. I mean, we talked briefly about the business owner side. There's two more hats that you wear quite prominently, which is, you know, Antonio the Barrias, the coach, which is where we first crossed paths, and we've crossed paths many a time in different seminars and educational courses and just through conversation. And then there's the athlete side of things. And I thought, where would you like to start, Antonio?
Let's start with the coach, and then we can get to because I think I'm very opinionated on on Instagram, and it's more of a coaching side of things. And my athletic career is more like a hobby. And so we can finish off with that the segment. But let's start off with the coaching side.
Great. So, with regards to coaching, I mean, obviously a big part of what you do is in the four walls of your affiliate there, and you're working with people. I'm assuming a group class program, but also I know you do a lot of work with people one-on-one. You know, what do you think defines you as a coach?
Ooh, very, very, very specific question with so many possible answers. I think what defines me is I do not like fluff. So what I mean by that is I think I like methods that prove that work, and I do not like fluff that kind of hides the greater picture. So for example, I'm very vocal about this on social media, whereas there's, let's say, uh, the people like to post just to get likes and stuff like that. Bless you. And yeah, so what defines me is like, I don't like nonsense, and I don't like to waste people's times and people's time. And that actually transfers over to my personal training clients and my athletes and everything. So it's no nonsense. I don't like to waste time, and I only like to use things that produce the adaptation and nothing else. No fluff around the stuff.
Okay, I love that, because I think you know that I'm a big believer in that as well. You know, for
Yes.
someone listening, like, what is fluff? You know, what is the things that we get sold on social media as a training population, but also coaches, because we get sucked into that kind of stuff as well. You know,
Yeah.
what is fluff, and how do we discern between bang for your buck, tried and tested methodology that works versus stuff that doesn't?
It's easy. So, for example, let's take the most followed accounts for, let's say, fitness on social media, on Instagram. So there's a couple of bikini models, IWFBB chicks, and they sell, you know, home workouts, booty programs, all that stuff. When I know for a fact that they got the physiques they got by lifting heavy, by doing back squats, by doing deadlifts. But then they're selling to the general population programs that will produce absolutely no results with bands, with booties, like all that stuff. So that's fluff. I chose this example specifically because I don't want to. So I don't actually like to criticize methods of fellow coaches, especially when they're trying to help people genuinely. So if I use CrossFit as an example, it might some people might read more into it than what I actually want to say. So that's why I chose the booty method. But in CrossFit, you see a lot of fluff as well, a lot of unnecessary stuff that really produces no result whatsoever. And so that's what I mean by fluff. It has no place in an athlete's, for example, training program. But that's what goes on social media, and that's what people think produces the results, you know?
Yeah, you know, I think I think perhaps it's part of the problem with social media is that we're given so much choice, and that to stand out from the crowd, you know, you talked about it earlier, you know, perhaps sometimes people feel like they need to try and reinvent the wheel, when really the stuff that works is the stuff that's been working for years. So just on that note, because you brought that back to CrossFit, you know, every CrossFit affiliate has perhaps, like, you know, their own take on how CrossFit should be delivered as a training methodology. And perhaps let's talk about your general affiliate here, rather than how you would individually program for someone. You know, what's your general take? Is there a methodology or a philosophy that you follow? You know, perhaps you can give us an idea of kind of like how you program for your affiliate members.
Sure. So, for example, what I do, my main role is I do not coach CrossFit classes anymore. So my primary role in the business now is coach education and personal training. So that's what I do. So I educate my coaches on how to be better coaches, and how to better program for their personal training clients and the group classes. So the general philosophy that we do is we like to cycle. So basically it's a take on block periodization, and we like to cycle what we do within our classes. Of course, programming for group classes is never easy, and often we're told program as if you're programming for an individual, and I believe that's completely wrong. You need to be broad but specific at the same time to induce that specific adaptation. So let's like, for example, an overview is, so for example, if you're going to a new block, my coaches have been taught and instructed that we got to start let's say, movement complexity from the least complex possible, and then build it up to a more specific block further down the line. So we have currently 4 coaches in a programming cycle. So we sit down in team meetings, and we set up a skeleton of what we're going to be doing throughout the year. And then each coach gets assigned a block. And then within that block, we got to kind of build into each other. So recently we've just finished a general block, which consisted of a big aerobic component. And I'm very anti-aerobic on social media. I'm very aware, but it is important. And we just finished a primary block where we concentrated on slower compound lifts and more of an aerobic development to further build what's coming next down the line. So that's just, for example, what we do.
And I really like that. And, you know, we take a very similar approach here at Coastal Fitness and on the process programming. But I'm interested to hear how you, because especially in somewhere like Macau, which can be quite transient, you probably, I'm not sure how many new members you have coming in or people dropping into the gym. And, you know, I think sometimes affiliate owners find that when they start to implement a lot of structure in the training program, and a lot of members may come from a background where they were used to a lot of variance and you know, changes in the training program. You know, how do you deal with that in terms of questions that may come your way? And, you know, like, well, maybe something you may hear is like, this is really boring, we did this 3 weeks in a row. Like, I haven't done this movement in ages, that means I'm going to get worse at it. You know, what do you guys do as an organization to, you know, help with those potential things occurring?
So this is actually something that came up recently when we started applying a lot more structure into the programming. So then what I decided to do was offer a lot more interaction from a coaching standpoint. Of course, you coach one-on-one with clients, but when you're, you know, presenting the workout, you don't really have time to tell them the why of what's happening. So we've recently introduced into every workout, we have the coach's notes, and then we have the daily goals. So what we do in the coach's notes and the daily goals is explain what we're looking for the direct stimulus for that day. And then the coach's notes, we try to make our athletes understand how that specific day integrates into the larger scheme of things. And then before we start, we actually tell our members that we will start a new phase, and this is the goals for the new phase. And at the beginning of the new phase, we send out an email that structures everything. The people that don't care, they just want to train, they don't read, but we always have those that, you know, they're like you said, it's like, oh, we haven't full snatched in 2 weeks, you know, I'm going to lose the movement, like I'm going to forget how to do it, you know. So then we have to explain to them one-on-one, and we do have this, but I think it's part of coaching, and it's a part of having the human side of the business, where you need to have those interactions with your members and explain to them why you're doing what you're doing. And them understanding will actually make them keep coming back for more. And so we've had, and you guys as well might have had a lot of members who then transfer to either remote or personal training, because they were looking for those explanations and those reasonings as to the why they're doing what they're doing. So that's the approach we take.
I love it. Yeah. Emphasizing the importance of the why behind what you're doing and educating your people is probably one of the best ways to kind of counter those things happening. Yeah. As a coach yourself, Antonio, like what makes you tick in terms of athletes? Like, who do you really enjoy working with? You know, where do you see yourself in the future? You know, it sounds like you've stepped away from the group class a little bit. Is that for a specific reason? Is there a certain type of person that you really enjoy, you know, the challenge you're working with?
So I've come to find that I actually, for the longest time, I kind of lost the love to coach group classes. It's just too many variables and too many people. And then you know, the workout, the stimulus that you're looking for is this stimulus, but then you need to change the program for that person. And then, you know, in a group setting, you can't really keep up with all these changes throughout time. So I kind of fell out of love of teaching the group class. But then recently I've been getting back into it because I've been finding that you can help more people. The more you know, the more you can help. So I've been getting back into it. But personally, the people who I like to work with more is, so if you look at my personal training clientele, it was brought to my attention that I only train women, and I only train women over 30 years old. So I like challenging cases, and so I like coaching one-on-one. You know, the mother of three. I like to coach the person that comes to you and says, my doctor told me, you know, I have a hernia and I shouldn't do this. I love a challenge. So these are the people I like to work with more, because I feel like those are the people that you can change the most and make their life better, more better, versus someone that just comes in for, you know, just to sweat out. You can really help someone who was told that, you know, they could forget about squatting for the rest of their life, And then in 14 months, they get their first back squat with a barbell behind their back. And, to them, it means the world. So that's to me, that's much more gratifying as a coach.
Awesome. Okay. The bit I'm really excited about now, Antonio the athlete.
Yes, sir.
I want to start with my take on like seeing your journey from when we first met in that CrossFit gymnastics seminar. You're right. You were a skinny dude. You had a mohawk, full of energy, like bundles of energy. But obviously, at the time, I'd never seen Antonio Barrias before. This guy's come out of nowhere. And if anyone who lives in Hong Kong, you live in Hong Kong and Asia, you know everyone in the Asian circles. And here this guy was out of nowhere. And then almost in the next, I feel like a year to maybe just over a year, you suddenly exploded. You were putting big scores up in the open. You were backing it up with really big results at competitions that we were competing at. You then went to make it to regionals. And I know, even though you say it's a hobby, you've still got dreams to make it to the CrossFit Games. So, where did your journey with sport start?
So I've, before I actually decided to make, let's go back. I'll give you the specific moment I decided to start taking on CrossFit as a sport. So in 2014, I opened my affiliate in 2012. Officially 2013. And in 2014, I was invited to go to Sin City Invitationals, and this was before I competed anywhere. And I decided to go there because I've never been to Singapore and I thought it would be cool, So I went into that competition fully expecting to get my butt kicked, like fully expecting. And then after the first day, people were coming up to me, congratulating me. It's like, oh, you're doing great, all that stuff. And then I didn't even know that I was second. And then, you're like, oh, cool, I'm second. But I wasn't just second. I was second behind someone who's actually been at the games, right? So as someone that just started, that really, really, really pumped me up. I mean, like in the last workout of the Sin City Invitationals, I lost by 1 second. And I think that was the workout that kind of lit the fire for me to want to compete. And then every time I would train and every time I would do a qualifier, that's the workout that would go through my mind, because it's like, I can't make that mistake again. I can't do that again because I lost by 1 second, So that was the first competition. And then you're right. And then from then on, I became laser focused and then I started doing competition after competition. And then, eventually went to regionals. And then, that's what it is. Yeah.
And so where are you now? Like, what is your focus? Is it, do you still have competitive endeavors within the sport, or is it, does it come secondary to your coaching, your business life?
So it is secondary. However, I believe in the philosophy, if there's 1% of you being able to achieve it, you should still go for it. So I'm not going to sit here and say, because no athlete can say this in their right mind, if you've ever competed at CrossFit, that you don't want to go to the CrossFit Games. No one that's ever competed at CrossFit can say that. If you've competed CrossFit, it's because you've seen the videos online, you've been on YouTube, you've watched the fittest, and you would love to be on that field one way or another. That's the truth. So it is secondary, but it's always in the back of the head. But the primary focus now is 100% the business and 100% the coaching, because I'm a father and I'm a father first. So up until recently, I have completely decided to retire completely. And I was just doing, just maintenance work, more bodybuilding, structural stuff, taking care of a lot of injuries that I've accumulated, not injuries, but a lot of imbalances that I've accumulated over the years. And then the COVID happened and the Asia Champs was canceled. And I was really like, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do this. CrossFit is a mess, right? But then recently I've gotten back to, I started doing the class Metcons, and the competitive spark was still there. And I just started building it. And then now I'm just going with the flow. And then when competitions open up again, I will do the qualifiers. if I win, I don't know if I win the right to go compete, I'll go compete. But it's not a primary focus now. But you know me, if I say I'm gonna still do it, I'm gonna give 100%. Smack the wall, yell at people. That's how I do stuff. And yeah, so training's been good. Push pressed 135 kilos yesterday, which felt pretty good. Yeah, so I can't say that I'm not physically ready. So we'll see. We'll see what life throws at me.
So I need clarity here. Is getting to the CrossFit Games, Antonio, still your goal?
Yes, it is one of my goals.
And okay, so I'm interested to hear now from like a mindset standpoint. What's driving you? Because obviously making it to the CrossFit Games, like for you, the easiest route. I'm not saying it's easy at all, but probably the most realistic route would be, I believe, to qualify through Portugal by being a national champion.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Now that's not an easy task because Portugal, like a lot of the rest of the world, has some really good athletes.
Correct.
And of course, to put this into perspective, a lot of those people who are also gunning for the same position as you to win Portugal probably don't have as much as you do on their plate. A lot of people might just be set up to be professional athletes, and the only thing they have to worry about is eating, training, and sleeping.
Correct.
So what does it take from you now? The more your business has grown, and you've got a daughter as well, and you're a coach trying to grow the business. What does it take from you, or what have you noticed that has had to change in order to allow you to still pursue that same goal?
So what I found is I do have more to do now, more on my plate now that I've ever had in my entire life. And training is always the thing that needs to be the least of my priorities. So if I'm training and something comes up, I need to stop training. So you kind of learn with age that you need to segment your time more efficiently, so you don't waste time doing stupid stuff anymore. So whereas these kids, they can go into the gym for 2-3 hours, and they do 30 minutes mobility, 30 minutes this, blah 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 blah. I don't have that luxury. So when I hit the gym, I hit the gym with purpose. I hit the gym with a very clear why. If I have to snatch, I have six sets to snatch a heavy single. I will snatch. I will have the most efficient warm up to achieve that, and I will make that 1 hour count as much as possible. And now you as a coach, you know this, and everybody that's listening, that's a coach, you know this. The thing that takes the longest time to develop is strength, which has been one of the things that I've been focusing more on these past years. So my strength component is already up there, up there with the top 1%. I out clean, what is it, 90% of the field that went to the CrossFit Games. I out squat probably 98% of the field, and I'm 80 kilos. So I don't have to worry about those things anymore. So if I do want to win Portugal, I can prioritize my time just simply for energy system development, and I'm confident because no one else, they all have a dream, but they haven't had the experiences that we've had, and they haven't had the journey that we've had. And I think all the history behind us is what propels us to the future. And my why is very clear, and that's why I believe that I still have it in me to qualify through Portugal against kids that do nothing but train, eat, and sleep, because their why, as great as it is for them, cannot come close to the why and the reason why the reason that I do what I do. And one of the biggest reasons why I decided to get back into competing was my little girl. I mean, you see this stuff in movies and you never really expect it to like click in your head. So there was a month where my daughter was watching on repeat my YouTube video at regionals. So she was with the iPad. She was like connected to TV, and she would play on repeat the handstand walk ring muscle up pistol event at regionals. She would be playing that on repeat, and then she, like, when you see that you have that effect on your child, and then that really lights a fire that I really cannot explain.
So, you talked about a why. If you were to succinctly put it in words, what is your why?
It's a very see. This is why I wanted to come on this podcast, because you like asking these questions. I, I I've I've been asked this, I think, twice this week. So it's tied with what I said before. If there is even the smallest possibility that it may happen, we owe it to ourselves to give it our maximum effort. I believe that my why is half selfish, but half from a father's perspective, because I do not want my little girl. Actually, let me rephrase that. I want my little girl to, even if she has 1% to achieve what she dreams, she still goes for it. And I cannot set any other example than that one.
Oh, that's awesome. And that why now that has clarity to you, when you think back to perhaps before that became your reason or your justification for doing what you do, what used to drive you? Obviously you had this fire lit when you did your first competition, but you then pursued a 4 to 5 year journey, maybe even longer, of trying to be at the top of the sport. You went to regionals multiple times, and you went pretty much all in, at least it looked like from the outside looking in, to pursue that dream. What was driving you then?
Honestly, like what was driving me then was very ego driven. Not in a bad sense of the word, but I wanted to see what I was capable of, and I wanted to see how far I could push. And there's no greater feeling than winning and being able to achieve a goal that you set for yourself. So once you set yourself up for that goal, there's no greater feeling than being able to accomplish that goal. So when I set my goal to go to regionals, I actually only wanted to go to regionals once and then focus on business. And then, as you know, I went to regionals and I got really hurt on the warm up for the second event. And then I was talking to doctors, and everybody was saying that this was going to be a 2-year journey back to full fitness. And I put it in my head that I had to requalify the next year. Like I put it in my head, like, no, I'm going back. I will not be defeated this way. So that's what I focused on. But now I think with age, the why changes. And what I see from a lot of athletes that compete a much higher level than I have at the sport, their why is very self-centered. And once that drive disappears, they kind of phase out of the sport. And so it's really sad to see when that happens to athletes. So for example, let's take Matt Fraser as an example. If Matt Fraser's only drive is to win. He wants to be the best. He wants to win, right? Would he be as good if he didn't have that singular only drive? Maybe not. So my why before was the same. Of course, different levels, but same level, same why. But now it's changed because I want to be more of a role model than focusing it on me. And yeah, that's my why. It's changed. Things change, man.
And you made it back to regionals.
Yeah.
How many times did you make it in total? Was it 2 or 3?
2.
And talk us through that second experience.
The second experience was amazing. I mean, you talk about you've talked about this visualization, and putting yourself in the moment. So after I got hurt, you kind of take time away from the sport. You kind of decompress, and then when you get back to training, it was just horrible because we're working, so people coming in and out. It was horrible because I couldn't lift my arm over my head for 4 months. So my main thing is like, okay, keep squatting, keep deadlifting, keep doing what you can do, right? But every day I would wake up, visualization practices. I would close my eyes and imagine myself back on that floor, and that's what kept me going. Is closing my eyes and imagining myself under those lights with the crowd cheering. Like a little bit crazy, looking out far into the distance and seeing my little girl. And so that's what kept me going for that year, and just kept me pushing. Funny enough, I was only able to snatch 4 months before the open. Like I couldn't snatch until 4 months before the open. I was scared out of my mind that they were gonna put a heavy snatch event for the open, and I wouldn't be able to do it. But yeah, visualization was the best practice that I've had over the years. Visualization, meditation, all that stuff, and that's why there's this picture that they actually posted up. CrossFit actually posted up that I'm doing double unders in the 333 event, and I got this gigantic smile on my face. And the reason why I was smiling there is because I was doing the double unders, and I realized that the visualization that I had in my head, the picture I had in my head, was I was living at that moment. So that was one of the greatest feelings I've ever had. It was pretty cool.
You just talked about visualization. You talked about meditation. You know, how much of those things, let's call them mindfulness practices, are now a part of your daily routine now?
I would not. I can say that I would not be able to do what I do without those practices. I'm not even going to say it's crucial. It's without them, I would not be able to function. It helps two things. So the visualization helps set up a mind frame of steps that you need to achieve and you need to take to accomplish whatever goal you want to achieve, business, coaching, whatever, even as an athlete. But then meditation is that practice that allows you to kind of wind down and not get caught up in the anxiety and the stress of wanting to accomplish your goals. So those two things for me is just mindfulness practices is just, if someone is not doing them and they want to achieve some sort of goal, I highly recommend it, because I guarantee it's going to speed up the goal or make you achieve it in a much more less stressful way. They are key.
And what does your mindfulness practice look like? What is your meditation setting? I know you talk about grounding a lot, and you share that on social media, but what does that process look like for you?
So same as you, I live in a concrete jungle. So getting to nature. So you talk about 20 minutes a day a lot, even when there's no sun. So I try to apply, I actually follow that same principle a lot. I never post about it because it's going to kind of seem like I'm trying to like compete. So like grounding is my thing.
The more the merrier, buddy. Let's do it together.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. Let's do it. So yeah, so grounding, I think it's so I do grounding every weekend. I try to just get away from the normal, not the normal, but the environment I'm most in. So for example, gym, anything. So during the weekend, I try to stay away from this environment as much as possible to allow your mind to kind of reset and just spend time away from whatever is causing that stress. But from a day-to-day perspective, it's very simple. I wake up and I do a 5-minute breathing practice. So I do it basically anywhere. When my daughter sleeps over at my house, she's at the bed and she brings me calmness. So I just do it at the foot of the bed, looking at her. So it kind of brings a stillness in me. And then when I get to work, right before I park my car, right before I leave my car, I do around 3 to 5 minutes of headspace, just guided meditation, just because I don't want to come into work with pre-stress, because you're going to have to go when you get to work. So then, small little things like, for example, intersets, in between sets. So when I feel like I'm too amped up to train, I do intranasal breathing, stuff like this, to kind of wind the system down to be able to go through my full session. And then the biggest thing is that I've learned over the past 2 years is, before I go home, I will spend 5 to 10 minutes just completely off. So for example, if I drive home, I sit in my car, put some delta waves, some theta waves on my headphones, and for 5 to 10 minutes, I just stay in stillness, because I do not want to bring that stress into my home. So those mindfulness practices have been key for me.
It's really cool. I'm always really interested to hear how everyone has their own kind of practices and systems they built up over the years. I think especially like, when you're someone like myself and yourself, and you make a decision and a choice to keep yourself busy and choose lofty goals all the time, it's really easy to get wrapped up in,
Yep.
you know, the day-to-day activities and tasks, and, you know, probably one of the massive contributors to why people can't sleep and ultimately why people aren't gaining muscle or losing
Yeah.
fat. You know, so important. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Oh, Antonio, yeah, go.
So actually, I held back a little bit. The second time I made to regionals, I failed, but I just wanted to beat Ant in the open again. That's what I wanted to do.
It's, you know, it's funny how many people say that that's their goal. I think the thing is, I think Ant would hear that and actually just be smiling and really happy that is your goal. He likes having a target on his back.
Yeah, man. Like the first time I qualified for regionals, when I didn't even know. Like when people told me I was seventh, I was like, hold on, where was Ant?
Yeah, where's Ant Hayes? That's the only thing that matters. I know that's been driving Alex Younger's CrossFit career for the last 3 years as well.
Yeah, man. One of the saddest things right now in my athletic career is that I cannot make it to Hong Kong to train in the environment you set up. Like every time, I remember last time I went, it was in the old Coastal. I got a massive back squat PR. Like first time I've ever back squatted 200 kilos without knee sleeves or a belt was in Coastal.
I remember the day. Well, mate, when borders open up and travel's a bit easier, you're more than welcome to come anytime.
Yeah, man, for sure.
All right, buddy. Well, Antonio, we're kind of coming to the end of our episode now. What I'd love to just finish with is where can our listeners find out more information about you?
Well, my social media is Antonio Barrias. So Antonio_Barrias, 2 R's on Instagram. And that's basically where I'm most active. I'm trying to stay away from social media as much as possible. So that's basically the only source of Antonio you can get now.
There's a thorough archive of entertaining posts, though. So even if you're not currently updating it, there's enough to keep people entertained for hours. Yeah,
people love the barbell javelin throw.
that is a classic. We'll go down in CrossFit folklore. All right. Well, Antonio, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, mate. Thank you for sharing your story, and just keep up the good work.
Yeah, man. You too. Thank you.